Hey, Paul here. I'd like to thank our premier sponsor for this episode, Cisco Systems, building a bridge to possible in their newest platform to power an inclusive future for all. For more information, go to cisco.com. Wanted to give everyone an update. Since the recording of this podcast, Howie Winter passed away, the former leader of the Winter Hill Gang. So another chapter in the legacy of the Winter Hill Gang is closed. Hi, this is Paul D'Allegro, and welcome to the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My guest today is Bobby Martini, the author, I should say co-author of Citizen Somerville, Growing Up with the Winter Hill Gang. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
How you doing, Paulie?
I'm doing well.
Well, good that hat, buddy. Just want to let you know. I want the audience to know.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, Bobby, so I want to kind of get something out in the open right away, our connection. We both grew up in Somerville. So yes. The Winter Hill Gang was always something you heard about growing up, and like, I think you mentioned in the book, you always knew somebody, right?
Yes.
Everyone knew somebody in the gang. So to start out, because there's going to be people all over the country listening to this, what was the Winter Hill Gang? How did it start? Who was in it? What, kind of level set for the folks out there.
Well, the Winter Hill Gang started in 1961. There was a party in Salisbury Beach, and Bill Hickey and Ed Lloyd were up there with one of the McLaughlins. He kept grabbing Bill Hickey's wife's boob. And after a while, they got sick of it, and they punched him out, but they punched him out really good. Bill and Ed were tough guys, and they had to take him to a hospital later. So they take him to the hospital, they drop him off in the lawn, and they said, frig it. Well, the next day, Bernie McLaughlin, from the McLaughlin gang in Charlestown, goes and sees Buddy McLean. And he says, look, I want these two dead. And he goes, what do you mean dead? Your brother, what was the other brother's name? McLaughlin.
What was it?
Not Punchy, Bernie. Bernie goes to see his buddy at his house or Upper Winter Hill. And Buddy goes, no, your brother was grabbing his wife's boob all friggin' night. I mean, he punched him out. It's a fight. He goes, well, we don't like this, and that's just the way it is, and we'll take care of it ourselves. So a week or so goes by, and Buddy's dog, he had a German Shepherd, his wife Jean hears barking, and she goes, Buddy, someone's out there. So Buddy grabs a German Luger he had from World War II, and he goes out and he sees people under his hood. And he looks and he jumps out. They run away. He fires at him 2 or 3 times, 4 or 5. Who knows? He probably emptied his gun. He goes back to the car and he finds a bomb there, all being hooked up and everything else. So they call the police. They come down, but they ask Buddy, do you know who it is? He goes, no. And, that was the old school way.
That's right.
If you were a rat, you got killed, basically. Yeah. Really, if you were a rat around Somerville or Charlestown or Dorchester or Southie, if you were a known rat in the 60s, 50s, 40s, you were dead. And you knew that. So it stopped you from telling on people.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, so that's kind of what started the gang wars.
Yes.
The 60s. I was a little kid back in those days, but I remember, when Buddy McLean got murdered and he was kind of, so who started the Winter Hill Gang?
Well, after that incident, week or two later, Buddy and Bobo Petrocone, who was Alex Rocco and the Godfather, who got shot in the eye.
That's right. Mo Green.
So Bobo drives Buddy to the middle of Charlestown, right in front of the police station. They knew that Bernie drank there every night. He was like a creature habit. He'd collect they were bookmakers, and they were Shylocks, and they did some hits for the New York mob. So they thought they were covered. No matter what they did in Boston, they were covered by the New York mob, which they weren't, because there's a patriarchal was in charge of the mob in Rhode Island. So Bobo pulls up stops behind a tractor trailer. Buddy slides under. In the middle of town, right outside the bar and the police station, Buddy empties his gun at the Bernie. And that's what started the war. But that's also what started the Winter Hill Gang.
Okay.
Prior to that, Buddy and Howie owned Fay Transportation.
That's right. A trucking company, right?
They owned a trucker company.
Yeah, that's right.
They
That's
did
right.
some Shylocking. They did gambling. You know, they would take the bet. That's all they were. Bookmakers and bettors. And after this incident, they had to put together a gang. And it was Joe McDonald, Buddy McLean, and Howie Winter.
Right.
Joe McDonald probably had 30 hits under his belt. But I only have 2 of his hits in my book because even though I knew Joe, like one day we're going to fights. And Joe says to me, hey, Bob, I got 200,000. I just made a score. This is 1980, I think. Can you do anything with it? I go, Joe, I'm okay, buddy. I'm okay. Because Joe McDonald said one day to a friend of mine, he goes, you know, Whitey Bulge is a coward. Takes a gun and he shoots you, a rifle, from far away. I go right up to their face. I tell them I'm going to kill them, and I kill them. He was on the most wanted list for years, Joe McDonald. And that was the start of the Winter Hill Gang. It was 1961 because of that beef in Salisbury, Mass.
Right. So the Irish gang wars of this between the McLaughlins and the McLeans, how long did that last for? And how many guys
lasted
died?
From that day in 1961 into the 70s, probably. There was like 60 killings.
Yeah.
I mean, but they all weren't Irish, the Irish.
Yeah.
Patriarcha and the guys from the mob, the Italians, they were throwing their own hits in and blaming the Irish.
Can't trust those Italians, Bobby.
Well, hey, I'm half Italian, buddy. Hey. Oh, my God.
Yeah. So you write the book. I'm going to start. Why'd you write the book?
Well, I wrote the book because I'm with Howie all the time.
Right.
Since
he's
he got
still
out
alive,
of jail.
right? 91
yeah, he's 91.
Years old?
Yeah, he lives in Massachusetts with his wife, Ellen Brogner. And still sharp as a tack. I mean, he can give you a better interview than I could. But I'm taking the spot today, buddy. You know what I mean?
Well, see, the one thing you did, Bobby, that he didn't do is you wrote this book.
Yes,
and you can get it on the Amazon, everybody.
Yeah.
Just a little plug there.
That's my brother with me, My grandmother made those clothes.
Unbelievable.
My German grandmother made all those clothes for all of us. We had no money.
Yeah, who did?
You didn't have no money.
No, my father was a meat cutter at the First National Store.
Yeah. I mean, what people say? Well, those people from the projects had no money. Well, they're full of shit because those people from the projects, the only reason the projects were made is because of World War II.
Right.
And for all the people coming back from World War II, they had somewhere to go.
Right?
What? All the veterans.
All the
veterans. Basically
right?
Veterans. And then when they made enough money to get out of there, that's when they became, they were middle class anyways, because we were just as poor as they were, but they fought in the war, and my father didn't. Although he joined the Marines at 15, and he got thrown out by my grandmother. Then I joined at 16, but I kept in there.
Yeah.
I had to have a letter. I stayed in for as long as I wanted.
Yeah, so we kind of got off track there. So why'd you write the book?
I wrote the book. No, we didn't get off track. I was just talking about Howie, how every time I see him, he say, I can't believe they keep saying Whitey Bulger's the Winter Hill Gang. Whitey Bulger, the Winter Hill Gang was started in 61. Bulger was in Leavenworth.
Yeah.
Alcatraz.
Yeah.
And they were giving him acid and whacking him out and doing these tests. He come out in maybe 70, 71, and the war was already there for 10 years. And the only reason he ended up at Winter Hill is because he was a member of the Colleen gang, and the Mullins gang was starting to kill everybody. They had just killed Colleen, the head of the gang, and Whitey was next on the hit list. And he put word out to Howie any way he could squash this beef. And Howie goes, okay, but I don't want no money or not. You guys keep doing your thing in Southie, because Southie was Southie, and Somerville was Somerville, as you know.
Yep.
So he ends up brokering a deal with the Mullins gang, which was Brian Halloran, and that was my brother-in-law that got shot by Whitey 22 times later on.
Nice.
And McGonigal and all of them were in the Mullins gang, along with Jimmy Manford and all of that crew. And this piece, a year later, Whitey kills Paulie McGonigal, and, well, he ends up killing my brother-in-law too. So he was so evil, he brokered the deal, it was just waiting for time where they relax, and he killed them. And he would come up to Marshall Motors after that. That was 1972, because my father ran the garage from middle 60s to right around that time, 72, 73. And as soon as Whitey came in that garage, he started hanging there because they didn't want him over in Southie.
So I'm glad you said that, Bobby, because, you know, if you watch 60 Minutes, when Johnny Martorano was on and he was saying that Whitey Bulger ran the Winter Hill Gang, Whitey Bulger never ran the Winter Hill Gang. And any one of us from Somerville knew that. And it used to piss us all off, to be quite honest with you.
I'm not so sure Martorano said that. Johnny was a force in himself. Yeah. And Whitey was afraid of Johnny.
Yeah.
There was
what they said when Johnny was on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
The announcers said, you know, Johnny worked at the Winter, you know, worked.
Well, he worked at the garage later on with brother Jimmy, George Kaufman, and then Whitey would hang up there because it was just, that was where all the tough guys were, really.
Yeah.
It was like in Somerville, you never had to lock your doors in the 60s, 50s, even early 70s. Because if you got broken into, the Winter Hill would take care of it. But Whitey was, well, when Howie was away, that was 77, he went away, or 76, 77. Whitey was up the garage, was taking it over. Sal Spaligna, who was the local bookmaker, Howie, Buddy, and Joe's best friends, told Whitey, get the fuck out of the garage. You're not a Somerville guy. Get out, and I mean it. And Sal, another Marine, that's right, buddy.
Yeah.
If he liked you, he'd knock you right out. If he didn't like you, he'd hold you on the wall and punch you and punch you and punch you and beat you, bludgeon you. And he was when they were in the war from the 60s to the 70s, Sal was in charge of the bookmaking. And Sal was the money man. So when they needed money, they would go to Sal because they're all in apartments, just like the Godfather, on mattresses. None of those guys went home to their wives, Howie, Buddy, whatever was left in that crew. No one went home to their wives or kids because you could be clocked. And being clocked means they'd see where you were this day, another day, and they see till they get a habit of where you are, and then they would go kill you.
So you wouldn't want to put your family at risk.
Yeah, well, Whitey was there probably from 72-3 to 76, hanging there, but he wasn't in charge.
Right.
At that point, Buddy McLean was dead in 1965. Joe McDonald was on the run down in Florida. And
nice place, yeah.
Not that I know. It's funny, when Joe was on the run, right? There'd be phone booths from Porter Square to Harvard Square. And there'd be a bookmaker at every phone booth, right? Maybe 20 phone booths, right?
Right.
And the FBI is trying to find Joe. And Howie would put a bookmaker at every, because you know how many bookmakers are in Somerville.
There were a dime
a dozen. It'd be 100. Because there's 200 bars, 4 square miles. We always walked to the bars. We didn't need to drive a car.
Yeah.
And then the FBI would go to one guy, and no one ever knew which phone number Joe was going to call. And then they'd ring and go, yeah, get me some money, boom, 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 boom. I think one time me and Gary Winter, who's one of the toughest guys in Somerville's history, I know because I fought him for a half hour one night, and me and him and young Howie went down with money in our pockets, like maybe 10,000 each. We fly to Florida. I'm going, oh, beautiful. You know, in the 70s, we're like in our 20s. I'm going, oh, I'm going to have a party. We bring all the money down. We don't know what it's for. We just said, Howie says, put this in your pocket. All right, we get there. soon as we get there, Howie goes, "We're going home tonight." I go, "What do you mean we're going home tonight?
We just got here.
We just got here. I'm ready to find some girls or something." And he's like, "We're going home." So I think later on in life, I found out it was for Joe McDonald. Because
Yeah.
he was, go ahead.
No, I was saying, I always, that, you had mentioned something earlier that, Joe McDonald probably had 30 hits. You mentioned 2 in the book. I always wonder about that when I read the book. I was like, okay, there's probably a lot of these people that are still alive that you can't really, got to be careful what you say, right?
Not really.
No?
Mostly Howie's alive. McLaughlin, he just got out of jail last year. Why can't I think of his first name? There's Punchy, Bernie, and did you read the book?
I did, Bobby, but it's your story, not mine.
I know. I just read through it too. And I know I put pause.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But
pause for 1 minute. Well, George
McLaughlin. That's right.
George McLaughlin. And guess what street I lived on in East Somerville? George Street.
Oh, good God. Yeah.
George Street.
Yeah. So it's funny. So you talk about the garage on Marshall Street, and that was featured on 60 Minutes as well. I don't know if you remember that. But so what was your connection to that garage?
My father ran the garage.
That's
right.
But
to get back to 60 Minutes, I watched that. And the next day I got the keys to the garage. Remember when Johnny says underneath in the back office, there was a little spot?
Yep.
Well, I open it up the next day after the 60 Minutes. I go down there and I videotape the whole thing. All that's down there is, it's all cruddy.
Yep.
It was the oil tank and the compressor. But if you would have put somebody down there, I mean, there's not much room and no light. I mean, it's as big as this room here that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I did it on purpose just to have video of it in case we did a documentary on Howie or whatever and stuff like that. But my father ran the garage. It was in his name, just with a handshake. Back then, you did a handshake. You didn't need a contract. And as soon as Whitey Bulger came to that garage, my father said, "He's no good, Howie. I don't want nothing to do with it. Here's your deed back." And
your father knew.
Moved down to the Pointer Post and took that over, and that was the after hours club that all you drunks used to come to.
No, I have been there a few times, Bobby, over the years. Been to a couple of bachelor parties, and
yeah, they were the best. I didn't say that. There was never one there, I swear.
No, I remember your father. He had his spot at the bar. He down the end of the bar, right? Big Bob, and I
had
never
the ice pick, baseball bat, and shotgun on the other side of the bar.
Yeah, unbelievable.
That's the way we all grew up, though.
Yeah,
we thought it was normal.
Yeah,
really?
Maybe for you, Bobby, not for me. My dad was just a simple guy, right? He was a meat cutter at the First National stores, and my cousin, my 2 cousins, Frankie and Tony Willie.
Yeah, very well. Tough kids.
My cousin Tony was a sick human being.
He was. So we went down Charlestown one time at a party in the 70s. And this is how I think the way we grew up, right? And we're at the top floor, and 5 Charlestown kids come up. We go, they're coming in. We go, "I don't even know you. Who are you?" And then it turns out a beef. I go down and go, "Hey, what are you doing? This is unheard of." And the kid whips me, and I go at him. Kid comes around the corner, shoots at me. I close the door. It hits Timmy, the mailman, in the wrist, right here, the right wrist. And my belly's right here. I take him down the cellar. Pitch black in the cellar. I take my T-shirt off. I hear the blood. All you hear is blood pouring. And that's all I heard. And I hear people coming down the stairs, and I think it's those kids again. And I'm reaching for something, but I can't see because it's so dark. It's the police. Anyone down there go, "Oh, yes, thank God." We go back upstairs. My friend Timmy's getting the bullet wound fixed. Don't those kids charge us?
Really?
It must have been on angel dust, right? I picked the shooter out. He's about 6'4". I beat him up all over the car. Boston cops right here. I beat him up all over the car. I step on his head, which I never did. I was always a fair fighter, but I wanted to kill him, and because I was enraged. And the cop finally goes, "That's enough." Well, I should have went back and heard him later on, But I thought that's just the way you grew up. You know, guys shot at you, this and that. Turns out 2 years later, he did it to somebody else. They found him in the alley with a bullet in his head. Same kid.
Yeah, I mean, you do that enough, you're going to someone's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And it's just, that was the rules of the road, right?
But it was like a matter of fact. But we didn't know nothing about the Winter Hill Gang, you and me, when we were in our 20s or 30s. Not really. Because your parents never talked about that.
Yeah, my father, growing up in an Italian house, my father hated the mob. Hated the mob. He felt like it gave Italians a bad name, and he always said to me, "Don't associate those people. They're bad people."
Even the Irish gang war, even the Irish mob.
Yeah,
he liked both sides. He hated both sides.
He hated mobsters in general, Bobby, because he
was a clean cut guy.
Yeah, he was.
He's a hardworking guy.
Winter Hill Gang's going along, and talk a little bit about how Howie got set up by Whitey and sent him to jail for the first time. That was in the 70s, right?
Yeah, well, they in the 70s, they had all the pinball machines. That was a big thing in Somerville, and it was actually big through, it's only big through like Somerville, Dorchester, Southie, Charlestown. That was like the circle of crime, okay? After that, you had to really, you had to come into that area to be a criminal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There wasn't many criminals beyond that circle,
It's funny.
Boston.
You'll say this too, Bobby. Growing up in Somerville, when we'd go to like what's right around the corner, like Woburn or Burlington, we thought we're going to the country.
Oh yeah. Well, my grandma lived in Wilmington. She had 36 acres, and we used to go up there for the summers sometimes. Actually, in the 60s, I had to go up there for 2 weeks. Me and my whole family had to be separated everywhere because my father was in the middle of the gang war, which I didn't know. And I didn't figure it out till probably last year that's how that happened. Because I always wondered why I went to my grandmother's for 2 weeks in the middle of a school year, But that must have been, because my father Buddy McLean would walk down the street, and my father walked beside him. And Buddy and Howie used to like to go to church. St. Benedict's was Howie's church. Father Hogan.
Yeah.
Father Hogan, yeah.
Father Hogan.
So my father would be walking with Buddy, and Buddy go, Bobby, you got 7 kids. Get across the street. I just don't, they're looking for me. I know they're looking for me. They're not looking for you. My father go, I'm with you, buddy. Whatever happens, happens. I remember Buddy came to my house once in 62, 3. I'm only 10. And he's a big, rugged guy, And we used to go to the Elks, to all the parties at the Baltimore and with them and everything. But I don't have a lot of memory of it as a kid. But I remember him giving me a quarter. And I go, oh, thank you. He goes, keep that kid. That's for you. And I'm like, wow, Buddy. But, I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
But today, I wish I had that quarter.
Yeah.
I could say, Buddy McLean, give me this quarter.
That's right. Crazy time. So you're talking about the pinballs and that's what ultimately went went away for, correct?
So the pinballs, they had them in every bar. And Howie's idea was to legitimize them. To take them, pay taxes on them. He had the aldermans ready to sign off on them. And someone down the DAV at Trump Field, he was a World War vet, but he was nuts. And FBI got a hold of him and started, the guy used to walk around Trump Field talking to himself. FBI got a hold of him and made him testify to that. But at the same time that Howie's trying to do it legit, Whitey Bulger goes down to East Somerville. What was the one down there, the vending company? Jimmy's place.
Mellotone?
Mellotone.
That was on Broadway.
Yeah, Whitey goes to him, says, we're going to take this over, boom, boom, boom. And Jimmy calls the FBI, John Conley. John Conley says, well, we can't do nothing until something really happens and all this other stuff. And John Conley was in bed with Whitey Bulger.
Of course he was. Yeah.
So he probably gave him the warning and he probably backed off. But then that guy turned in Howie with the pinballs and Howie ended up going away for extortion.
Yeah.
Then while he was in there,
what year
the
was
house
that,
fixing
Bobby?
happened. What
year was that?
76 or 77.
right,
One or
okay.
two. Probably 77.
Yeah, I was in high school, I think, at the time. I remember that.
You were good looking in high school. What happened to you?
You know, old age, Bobby. But the
Yeah,
good news
Jesus.
is you're
Is that
older
why you
than
got
me.
that hat on?
What's that?
How fat? Is my face really that red?
It's a little bit red, Bobby, but it's
Because
okay.
I was just out in the sun doing yard work, but it looks a lot redder here, buddy.
That's all right. You're still a good-looking guy, Bobby.
Thanks,
That's all
buddy.
that
Look at
counts.
that. I'm not bad for 67.
Yeah.
So there's only a few of us left that really know the story.
Yeah.
You know, guys our age, I mean, really me, when it comes to the book with Howie, is the only one that really knows some of the real stories left. So I set the script to Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. I'm friends with them. And but they're on a schedule for, you know, and they never did nothing with them. I've had meetings with 20 producers and directors and nothing happens.
I wonder why though, Bobby, because
I don't know.
I know they
either.
feel like The Departed was the story, but it's not the story. It's not the same story.
It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
I worked out as a movie, as a Teamster. And I saw the guy there, and I saw Johnny Depp. He looked just like him. But that shooting scene was done at the dockside in Revere, Lynn. When the real shooting scene, when they shot Brian 22 times, was in, what's the place now? Oh, where Anthony's is. Where Anthony's was on the waterfront.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So as I've read the book, there's some interesting characters that were in the book. So the assistant DA that sent away Howie was none other than John Kerry.
John Kerry, coward.
Interesting. Yeah.
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 He's supposed a big Vietnam hero, but everyone, it's like that Blumenthal, the senator from friggin' Connecticut, says he's in I hate people that say they're from Vietnam. I have a phobia against it, and people say, "Oh, wow, you must have went to." I go, no, because if you went to fight for the country, you deserved your accolades.
But to lie,
Kerry was over there. I don't think he was over there fighting. I think he was, you know, doing. If he was even over there, I don't know.
Yeah, he was, I think, but who knows? But
he's
Blumenthal's how he has skated all this time is amazing to me.
How do you vote for a guy that lies about going to Vietnam?
Yeah.
How? It doesn't make no sense.
Yeah.
Whether Democrat or Republican, I don't care. I don't do my political views, but, you know, I like who I like, and that's it.
Yeah. So, Bob, you had some fun. You had some fun stories in the book. How about your father? What did he do to you when you skipped school that day?
Oh, geez, I forgot all about that. Why are you gonna bring that shit up? You know, I got feelings, buddy.
It's a funny story, but.
Oh yeah, it's 1969. I go up the garage around right after school, supposedly 2:30. Hey, Dad, how you doing? He goes, good. How'd your day go today? Good. How's school? Oh, great. Crack. He cracks me from downtown. And his hands were my size, but thicker.
Yeah.
Cracks me across the friggin' office. George that's running it is there. Howie's outside. I think Whitey's outside. They're all afraid of my father. My father could punch. They weren't afraid of him per se. But
yeah.
You never brought it into kids' business, father-son stuff. He beat me up, ripped my shirt off, threw me against the walls. And, you know, I could take a punch, you know. He's done it a couple of times to me, you know. And I walk out and no one will look at me. It's who's who of murderers. Right there. They must have had 20 hits under their freaking belt, right? And they're all looking up the street like this. And I just walked down the street.
Minding their own business.
That you never screwed around like that. I was down Club 3 one night. My father's mad at me for something. I don't know. So I'm sitting there. He comes in. He cracks me. I don't move because I could take a punch. I go, that's all you got? He runs out to the car. Now, mind you, I see stars. I don't see him no more, but I'm fresh mouthed. My friend Tommy Hersey comes in. He goes, Bob, can we please leave? Please. I go, why? He goes, look out here. There's my father in the trunk with Tunhead with a shotgun. They're fighting over the shotgun at 5:30 at night in the midday on Somerville Ave. And Tunhead's trying to get the shotgun away from my father.
He's going to shoot you.
He's going to come in and say he's going to shoot me. What if he brought that gun in? He wasn't thinking. He had range like I had range my whole life. He had a short fuse, and I always did too. So I left. You know, I may be stubborn, but I'm not stupid.
Yeah. No, God. So you got another funny story in their book too. And so your father ended up going to prison.
18 months at Lawrence. Yes.
Because he wouldn't rat, right?
Yes. Well, because you won't tell the court that he told the court he didn't know nothing. They go, well, we don't believe you, and we're going to put you in jail till you tell us, which is a stupid rule.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't put no one in jail unless you have evidence.
Right.
Right. So they didn't care. They just wanted the mob. So they threw him in Lawrence for 18 months. Howie used to send money up to the warden, and the warden would take my father out to eat at Bishop's every Friday night or something, even though he's a criminal. And then Howie go, hey, they want a swing set up at Lawrence Jail. I go, really? Yeah. He goes, you're going up to Quincy and get it. And I go, I can't drive a truck. You'll learn. So I get this big truck, drive it up there. I back into the wall 8 friggin' times. I finally get it in. They throw the swing set on. I bring it up to the Lawrence Jail, the outside one.
Sure.
And I dropped it off. But my father used to cook for them. He was a good, best prime rib, best tripe. Do your viewers know what tripe is? Do they think it's some kind of fish?
Yeah.
The captain of my MDC police, when I worked with him, he was an Irish guy. And he says to me one day, you know, Buddy McLean used to get fresh with me. And I tell him, you get fresh again, I'll give you a friggin' whack, Buddy. So I know he's lying.
Right.
Buddy would have just broke his neck. So he says to me, my father brings tripe over to the station one day. And the captain goes, oh, that's good fish, huh? I'll go, oh, yeah, Captain. That fish is the best. It's cow belly.
Yeah.
I'll let your viewers know. But he made the best. You like tripe, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. You had
the
to.
Sauce makes the tripe, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
my mother never put tripe in the sauce, but, you know, so I know some people did.
Yeah. He used to bring it over to the station. And they go, where's the sergeant? I go, just follow the trail. This big, Dick Edgy was about this big. And he would spill it everywhere and eat like an animal. He's a big fat guy. One of the best guys I ever knew, though.
Yeah. So another funny story. I laughed at this one. So your father got out on a weekend furlough.
Oh.
And you get a call from Howie. Tell us about that one.
Well, Howie says, I want to talk to you up at Winter Hill. So pal Joey's had an office upstairs.
Yep.
So you go around back and had these long stairs to go up. I go up. I go, what's up, Hal? And I look in the back. There's like who's who of
Murderers Row.
Hitmen. Let's just put it that way. There was enough in there that, you know, I have like maybe a fingernail left if they wanted to take care of me, you know. So, but I don't know. I'm an innocent kid. I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm in my 20s. I don't know. Was it 20s? Was it 80s? Maybe 30s. So Howie goes, I'm calling your father. We want to know why he's leaving jail. He's been there 17 months. Now, been there 17 months, mind you.
Right.
And so he gets him on the phone. I go, hey, Dad, how you doing? He goes, good. I go, what's going on? Nothing. I go, hey, I'm here with some guys here, and they want to know why you're leaving jail. He says, you tell them to go tell them to
You may have to bleep that out, Bobby, by the way.
All right. Well, tell him to go Is that better? Screaming at me. He hangs up. I'm on the phone like this. Yeah, Dad. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, good. All right, I'll tell him. He said everything's all right. He just come out to see his girlfriend and have a little sex. I mean, what's wrong with that? So now I know. So Howie goes, all right, I'll see you later. I went down the stairs, right, Paul? You know, Winter Hill was like this.
Yep.
O.J. Simpson couldn't have caught me. I was running I don't think I hung around, the bars for a couple of days, just,
Yeah.
and then back then you always had one of these. So I put that on my belt. I remember Brian Hallen was looking for me one time, and I didn't know. Brian Hallen was my brother-in-law. He's a bank robber. And I used to run the city all the time when I used to box. So even when I didn't box, I always ran the city. And I remember Bobby Rascott goes, Brian came here looking for you. I go, for what? So I go, oh shit. So I put a 22 in my hand. I got the sweatshirt over it, and I'd run 3 miles with it. I set a mirror up on the second floor. I'd cock the gun, and I'd look up, make sure he wasn't there. And this went on for like 2-3 weeks. One kid drops me off. He goes, I'll come up with you. I go, no. Because if he gets me, he's going to get you. And if I get him, I don't want you to see that. So turned out he wasn't mad at me after all later on. But you never know when you had people that were used to doing that. To them, I've never done it. You know what I mean? I've never done that. And thank God.
Yeah, no, that's a line you like. So you did do some work for the Hill as far as some collecting or something here and there, right? I mean, little stuff, but you never were like full-fledged.
No. I always thought I shy money, this and that. And I go see somebody for money and they wouldn't have it. I go, okay, wait till you see the next guy. That would be Brian Halloran.
Yeah,
so Brian was a mean guy. And
I remember Brian. He was
scary guy.
How did he end up being your brother-in-law? Because I know your father wasn't very happy about that relationship with your sister.
Well, my sister worked over at Thermo King in Boston. Charlie and Jimmy Dimitri. They had like 20 horses. And Brian was good friends with Charlie. As a matter of fact, Charlie rented a car from one night, right? And then the FBI come to his house at 3 a.m. and they go, did you rent this car to somebody? He goes, yeah, Brian Howard. Well, they had killed the guy at Harry Mook's.
Ugh.
They either shot him dead. It's either Brian. Harry Mook's is a Chinese restaurant in Boston, well known to everybody. It was either Salemi or Brian that killed him. And they couldn't, I don't think they ever found out, really. And Brian left the car keys there. They killed the guy and left the car keys.
Unbelievable.
I was with him one night, and he had a gun like this big. And me and Michael McGinnis, we go to the dockside in Boston. And I go, Brian, what are you doing with that? He puts it under my seat. So we're in there drinking at like 4:30 in the morning. Brian goes out the front door. Me and Michael come out the back. And there's the Boston cop holding the gun. It's this big. It's a 44 Magnum. I look at it, the cop goes, the shotgun? I go, yeah. He goes, what are you doing? I go, listen, I bought it for practice. I got a permit. I left it under the seat. He goes, well, it wasn't under the seat. I go, listen, I'm really sorry. And I knew if they ran it, I'm done. I got a year in jail. And I didn't even do nothing.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
I didn't carry that gun. And the cop goes, go back to Somerville. Get out of here. Michael McGinnis gets in the car. He goes, how did you do that? I go, you think I know? You know why? 4 or 5 in the morning, the Boston cops, they don't want to write a report.
That's right.
At 5:30 in the morning, they'll be in there until 8 if they arrested me,
Unreal.
Never knew what Brian was going to do.
So speaking of Brian, so in your book, you said that Whitey wanted him to do the Roger Wheeler hit.
Yes.
But he refused. He declined. And that's ultimately what got him killed. Talk about that one a little bit. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, because I remember Brian was coming down the Pointer Post then all the time, my father's club. And he actually said it to me. Hey, they offered me a hit, $20,000. He says to me, you want to do it with me? I go, what?
Yeah.
I go,
So let me stop you for a second. So just for the folks, the Roger Wheeler, he was the president of World Highlight.
yes.
Right.
And John Callahan was Brian's friend. He ran Miami Highlight for the Wheeler Foundation. So that's the connection between Miami Highlight. And a bunch of summer guys went down and worked in Miami because of John Callahan. And then they end up killing him in Miami for nothing. Because Whitey
Um,
said he was a rat, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
No, he was an Army Ranger and an animal,
Yeah.
and never did anything wrong.
Well, that was Whitey's MO. Anyone who he thought was a threat to him, good or bad, he would just get rid of them.
It's the rat moniker. Instead
Yeah.
of the race moniker today, everyone calls you a racist. If you were a rat back then, though, you died.
Yeah.
You know, and that was their Bible.
Yeah. So Brian declines the hit, but now he knows when Roger Wheeler gets hit, he knows who ordered it because John Martirano did that one in Oklahoma, right?
Yes.
At a country club or something like that.
Yes. That was in his book, Hitman, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
Anything you say about stuff like that, it's got to be in somebody's book.
Yeah.
So Brian still had the 20,000. So he gives me the 20.
I didn't know that.
He
gave
Brian
him the
still
money.
They gave him 20,000. I'll know. I didn't know all of this really until later on in life, after when I started writing the book, all this stuff. But Brian did have the 20,000 that he said they gave him, and I know because he sent me down to Leechmere to pick up a Cadillac, and it was 20,000, but he couldn't put it in his name, or something like that, or he couldn't buy it in his name. So I bought it for him. And I think that car got shot up in Boston. A year later, they tried to hit him in Boston, and he climbed under it, and it was all bullet holes all through it. And that's the first time they tried to hit him. And the second time, my Patty was in an apartment in Quincy, and they tried to get him when he went out to the dumpster, and there's all gunfire being done out there. And then after that, my father put the word out, make sure my kids ain't with him, because the moniker, when you're a rat, that's the way it was back in the 70s and 80s and 60s and 50s.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be, think about it. As a dad, right? Your father, where I'm a father too, your son-in-law is going to get killed. It's just a matter of time, right? But, how do you not step in and try to help there? It's a tough one.
Well, it's hard. If you step in and you tell them and they find out, then you get hit.
Yeah.
That's the way they thought. Yeah. I mean, to kill that many people, there's got to be something going on inside you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying there's something going on in
it. It is what it is.
Sometimes it's a call to duty. Someone hurts your family. Because I remember when they shot my father in the bar that night. I mean, you want to get into that first, or you want me to tell you a story about us going around looking for him?
No, tell that one. That was a good one.
Which one?
When your father got shot.
So we're down the bar, me, Brian Halloran, Jimmy Manville from the Mullins gang, and we're all shooting pool. We're drinking all night, about 2:30 in the morning. I come from the back room. You know how the point it was. You come back from the pool room, and I see my father argue with Jimmy Hackett. Now, Jimmy Hackett had robbed in 1975, had robbed the mail truck on 93. Then Dana Owen, the MDC cop with me, chased him and got shot twice in the head. It turned the car sideways so that his partner wouldn't get killed. And Dana Owen has a great book out there. I actually talked him into writing it. Look up Dana Owen. What's the name of it? Shot in the Dark. Whatever. Look up Dana Owen for anyone who wants to read his book. But it's the true story of that. And the backstory before I get into my father getting shot is Dana tells me he's watching Hackett load guns into his trunk from the highway. So if he had grabbed the guns that night and arrested Hackett, my father wouldn't have got shot. So let's go to the story. So I come around the corner and he stopped my father, and I know he shot this guy, and they shot the guard up the hilltop. So I know he shot a couple of people, and I don't know what's going on, my father.
You just see him arguing with your dad.
Yeah, and I go, what are you arguing for? He goes, what are you going to do? So I break his jaw. I bust him. He goes out the door. My father's outside with a knife. Brian Halloran's got a gun. We don't know it, but it's in his back thing. And we're going, Dad, you got to get inside. If he ever comes back, it's 3 a.m. now. 3:30. Who even knows? And finally we get my father in because he's stubborn, got all that stuff there. All of a sudden there's a knock on the door. Michael McCarthy, who passed away, last year. Remember Michael? You let him in. Well, he was a rough kid. He was, he lets Hackett in. Hackett comes around the corner, and my father's right at the corner there. And my father rams him, hits the gun. The gun goes off, goes through his hand into his belly. My father pushes him into the closet and runs by me. I don't even know what's going on. I go, what is that? Now, my father's 5'10", 280, maybe, right? You would say he's that big? Yeah. So I look up, and there's Ibby on top of Hackett. I go, oh. And I get on him, and I'm banging him, and I'm banging him. I'm looking for the gun because I just realized you shot my father. And if I had got that gun, I would have shot him.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no doubt in my mind I would have shot and killed him. So he crawls to the door, still looking for the gun. We didn't know. He still, he had it here, but from jamming the gun, my father did, he couldn't shoot it no more. Oh, let me backtrack. Gary O'Brien's the bartender. He starts to shoot Gary. Gary starts throwing bottles at his head, glasses, this. Gary saved our life. Gary died a couple of years ago, too. So between Gary and Ibby, they saved everyone's life. I just jumped on him looking for that. He crawled himself out the door. The door opens, and the door's this thick. Remember how thick that was?
I remember, yeah.
It would take a 45 round easy. That's why he put it there. So the door opens, and there's the kid, Sully. Got a shotgun to my head, double barrel. And he lets it go. At the same time, I pick Ibby, who's got his head out the door. Ibby is 380 pounds, 350. I picked him up like he was a piece of glass, and I closed the door, and the shotgun went right here. And he took off. The feds followed him down to Florida. My father ended up going to the hospital. I try to get into the room. I see him on the emergency table, and then I see him. The guard goes, "You can't go in." I go, "I'm going in," because when I had something in my head, no one was stopping me. So, but all of a sudden, now it's 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I just broke down.
Yeah.
I put my head on the guard's shoulder, started crying. He goes, "Take it easy." Now he's patting my head. "You'll be okay. You'll be okay." And I'm like, so the feds followed him down to Florida. He comes back to Massachusetts, Hackett and Sully. And then they go back down to Florida to try to rob a bank in Saudi Arabia. Dana Owen has a picture of the mask they use. Because Dana's
Saudi Arabia.
So they end up in prison for 7 years. They stabbed Hackett's eye out. They stabbed Sully's in the ass, because that's an insult to a Saudi. I don't know if it's Arabic or Arabic or whatever. I don't know what it's insult to. And then when they finally got out of jail, I was down Dapper Dan's one night, and I see Sully walk by me, and I went. And he saw me. And the last time I saw him, he had blown 2 barrels at my head. It was, "Bobby, please." I was high on coke. I was whacked out. Hackett had me crazy. I didn't even know it was you at the door. I go, "All right, listen, I just did 7 years in a Saudi prison." So I'm like a forgiving guy. I really, some people aren't forgiving. But so anyways, I talked to him. I said, "Yeah, I ran into Sully." I says to my father, "Should have did something." It wasn't Sully that shot him, though.
Yeah.
So, and if it was Sully that shot him, it would have been a different story.
Yeah.
So he didn't talk to me for a year, my father. Pat me on the remember the Pointed Post had a bond list?
Yeah.
Remember there was a list of like 50 people. I was at the top like 8 years in a row. Every other month I'd be barred. I'd be barred if I went to
That was your father's club.
Yeah. So Hackett came back. He went to jail. Somehow he died of asphyxiation in a cell. I don't know how that happened, but they said he had asthma. I thought it was a pillow. But I don't know.
I'd bet on the pillow.
But I remember when I fought for the heavyweight champ, right? Jackie De Benedetto. 3,000 people went to the rink to see me fight that night. Were you there?
No, I didn't go to that.
1981.
Yeah, I
My
remember.
father wouldn't go because he was heavyweight champ, but my first fight, he goes, "You're gonna get." He didn't want to see me get beat up, so he stayed down the pointer. So I ended up beating the kid. Not it was like one of those hometown decision because he beats the shit out of me the first round. I go back, Bobby Covino, light heavyweight champ of
Bobby, yeah.
New England Hall of Fame. He goes, "You're doing good." I go, "What fight you watching? You watching a different fight than I'm watching? Huh? He's killing me." He goes, "Listen," he drops it, hit him overhand. He was right. I got him the whole second round. Third round, we just went toe to toe, right out of Rocky. We looked like shit. So I'm back at the pointer post. I got a big, huge welt. I got a stake in my eye. Every guy comes back to the pointer post, about 60, 70 people. Everyone called me a pussy. They go, "What's with the stake, you pussy? What's wrong with you?" Like, what? You can't take a beating? Everyone, not one didn't say congratulations. That's the way we grew up, though.
That's Somerville, though.
Yeah, you go, "Yeah, you suck."
You know, it's funny, Bobby. You know, I'm down here in Texas now, as you know, and it's like I can't even, like, when people say, "Hey, where'd you grow up?" I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah,
because it's just, they wouldn't believe half the stories. I mean, I grew up in East Somerville. I probably know a dozen guys that got murdered in my neighborhood. I know probably 50 guys that went to prison.
really?
You know, but you tell people that and they're like, "Yeah, right, you're full of it." I go,
No,
you know,
back in those days, yeah.
yeah, a lot of
Well, everyone was
drugs.
either bookmaker.
Yeah,
There's no money in the 50s and 60s. There's no money. And if you didn't get on the docks or you didn't get certain jobs, there wasn't a lot of jobs around there.
Yeah.
People just coming back from war,
yeah.
it's scarce.
That's-
So everyone was poor.
So it's funny. I got, in the movie The Departed, when Bulger was running guns for the IRA, and there's that scene on the docks where they're loading, cases of rifles. My cousin Anthony had told me stories about that this is years before the movie. And I didn't know whether I should believe him or not. He goes, "Yeah, we used to run guns for Whitey at to the IRA and load the ships down in the harbor and all that stuff." And then I watched the movie and I'm like, maybe he wasn't lying to me.
No, he wasn't. He probably wasn't. But back then, I knew a Somerville kid that gave one of the bulletproof vests. He was a cop. I won't mention his name. They come back years later, try to indict him for giving the vest. All he did was sell his vest to somebody. He didn't sell it to be put on the Valhalla. He's Greek. The kid was Greek. Why would he want to help the Irish?
Yeah, unbelievable. So let's fast forward a little bit, Bobby, to the whole, what people out there would know about the Departed type movie where, Whitey was ratting on everyone. He was in bed with all the feds, John Connolly, that whole crew. And that's kind of more modern day, what the people, out there would remember.
What was the question? Say that again.
No, about the whole more modern day, about how Whitey was in bed with the feds and that he kind of set up Howie and
he set Howie up with that with the horse fixing in '77 with Anthony Shula. So they're all involved with fixing the races, like Billy Benoski.
Yeah,
he would go and beat up jockeys to tell them to hold the horse back and do this and that. Friend of mine's father, Peter, had the horses back in those days, and he was a legitimate businessman. And he walked into the hotel one time, and Benoski was beating up one of the jockeys, and he walked out, and he called Howie. He goes, "Listen, I ain't no part of this. Don't you go beating up any jockeys that are doing my horses," because they'll legitimately making 100,000, 200,000. They had guys going across the state saying where the horses could go. So they had a certain horse. I forget the name of it, but they used to film it up here. They used to run it up in North Reading. So these two guys, Charlie and Jimmy, used to build the track for him. So Howie would send dirt. So the funny story is Charlie had said to Jimmy, "How much dirt is he going to send us?" He goes, "As much as he wants. Just shut up." Right? So they were practicing the horse on the place up here, and then the horse ended up only running once, maybe twice, and it won a little money. But they know when a horse is being held back, and they all get indicted with that. The guys from Vegas get indicted. Howie, Johnny Monterano, all those guys except for Whitey and Stevie, and they on the paperwork said unindicted co-conspirators, and that's when they all knew.
Yeah.
Whitey Bulger was not nothing to anybody till 1995 when he took off, and everyone found out all this stuff about him. When they found out he's a rat, there wasn't anybody afraid of Whitey Bulger in Somerville. They didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
He got his claim to fame from the FBI. Yeah, from the FBI, the whole thing. And he was in bed with John Connolly. They have meetings. And Stevie Fleming was in bed with the FBI before Whitey. His brother was a heroin addict in jail. And he was a dangerous guy too, Stevie Fleming's.
He killed he killed his own stepdaughter, I think, right? And raped her too, right?
Stevie Fleming?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. I think Whitey killed her.
Yeah,
he may have.
You're right. I think you're right.
I think Whitey killed her.
And he watched.
That was in the movie.
Yeah.
But he was Stevie Fleming, like Howie with his wife, so he's charming, this and that. He got the nickname the Rifleman for being in the Army. And he was doing hits and everything else for the North End. They could never figure out how he became a rat, and how they found out about the mafia in Boston was through Stevie Fleming telling them when they could put the cameras in at the club in the North End with Angulo and them.
On Prince Street.
So overnight they put the cameras in, and they got all this stuff with Conley backing them up, and Whitey was in bed with them since day one with that.
And they did that for years, Bobby. I mean, probably like 20 years, right? It's amazing.
From the late 60s, Stevie, Whitey probably got in there in the middle 70s, did not even know that Stevie was already a stool pigeon. So you got an informant killing people on the side, right?
Yeah.
And he's a federal informant. That's how corrupt the FBI was. I think they're still corrupt today. They're brutal.
Yeah. Connolly's in jail down in Florida, right? He'll never see the light of day.
No, the lady I wrote the book with, Elaine Karatzis, she's a producer down in Miami still to this day, and she's a brilliant mind, a brilliant producer. She went to see him when he went to court, and she had connections, and she said, Bobby, he looked terrible. He was like all flashy, Rolexes, house at Linfield, just did everything to, but he watched my brother get killed in the down by Jimmy's Harborside. When they found out Brian was down there. And by the way, in that movie, they kept calling him Balloonhead. Whitey and all them kept calling Brian Halloran Balloonhead.
Yeah.
If Brian Halloran heard them say that, he would have punched them out or killed them. There's no way that they called my brother Balloonhead. My brother maybe cooperated towards the end, knowing that the Whitey's looking for him, trying to get my sister and the kids out of town. He did it because they had my sister down the Cape, and the two boys, they're only little kids. She just lost one of her kids due to this pandemic 2 months ago. Too much idle time and whatever. And as soon as Brian got killed, they threw her out of the safe house. Oh, we're done with you now.
Okay.
Imagine that. She got no money, 2 kids, 4 and 2. Oh, we're done with you. The FBI.
Yeah. Well, she did end up getting a settlement, but years and years later, right?
No, they said all those people should have got like $2 million. You know what they based Brian's? They based $2 million on that. After he was shot, he lasted for 32 minutes or 34 minutes. I remember seeing him on TV in the ambulance, breathing up and down with a big thing on his face, still alive. And that's when the Boston cop said Jimmy Flynn did it. So the Boston cop lied, Because, someone with 22 bullets in him with a mask. The cop hears him say Jimmy Flynn did it 8 feet away. No way.
Yeah.
So, and I remember they said for those minutes, 34 minutes of pain and suffering, it's worth $2 million.
Hey, so let's pivot again, Bobby. So you explained this to me, bro. You quit school at 16. Why'd you quit school?
Well, my Irish mother, beat me with a strap. And I'm like, I'm looking at my father. I don't think he hadn't put shotguns to my head then yet. I look at my father. We tell her to stop. Because even when my father got mad at me, always put your hand out, the strap.
Yeah.
He'd keep going. Finally said I had enough. I go. Plus, I strangled a teacher in high school.
That'll get you thrown out of high school. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'd strangled a teacher in college too. But I didn't get thrown out of college.
Hey,
but
that's good.
But I went in. Yeah, I said that's it, and I went in. But something else funny about that story. 300 to 400 people came to my party. I'm 16 years old. Howie rents a car for me, drives around a brand new Buick for 2 weeks. It took me 30 years to realize they really wanted to get rid of me. It was the height of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
I'm 16 going to the Marine Corps. And I got people coming to my party. See you later, Bob. Have a good life. When I never should have come home. If I ever went to Nam, I never would have probably come home.
So you were born in what, 51, 53?
Yeah.
62. So that would have been late 60s. So, I mean,
1970, I got Vietnam orders. You never forget. It says FMF Westpac, Vietnam. I kind of told them I was too young because you had to be 18 or 4 months to go overseas. I was 17 in 4 months. And then I think either my mother or my grandmother, who took my father out of Korea at 15, someone stool pigeoned on me. I could have still went to Vietnam the following year, but I never did. But
the war would have been over quick, Bobby, if you were over there.
I don't think so. I was too young then, kid. I was just too. I went into 150 pounds into boot camp, 5'9". 3 months later, I come out 175, 5'11".
Nice. Made a man out of you.
Well, they kept sitting on your head, and they kept getting you bigger and bigger, stretching you out.
Unbelievable.
I took some beatings in there too.
So, having grown up in Somerville, I mean, this was obviously special for me too, right? Because you heard.
Well, I grew up different than you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was a half-an-ass athlete. You were a good athlete, and all the athletes did well and everything. But I grew up thinking, I'm following in my father's footsteps.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. And I'm out in the street and, fighting everybody. There wasn't I should have a couple more broken knuckles than I have.
Yeah.
But
so, well, hey, Bobby, we'll end it on this note. We'll try to do another version. I really appreciate you coming on. I know there's a lot of personal stories here. And so that's a wrap for Business Brains and the Bottom Line. I'm Paul Delivery, your host. And until
I'm
next
Bobby
time.
Martini, not your
Bobby
host.
Martini. Thank you, sir.